the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Weird.
Well, today it is my pleasure to let you know, of course you all know already, that we have our 3 new board members joining us today. Very exciting. So I'd like to introduce them and invite them to say a few words after the swearing-in ceremony. I'd like to start with Yvonne Chan. Yvonne, where are you? There she is. Okay. Yvonne is the principal of Vaughn Next Century Learning Center, a school with 1,700 students in kindergarten through 8th grade. She's an adjunct professor at UCLA and serves on the Los Angeles City Commission for Children, Youth, and Families. Ken Noonan is the superintendent of Oceanside Unified School District in San Diego County, a position he has held since 1997. Formerly an English and social science teacher at the high school and middle school levels, and he has served as superintendent of Corcoran and Gilroy school districts. And last but not least, Alan Burson. Alan has served as superintendent of San Diego City Schools since 1998, but will be leaving the district at the end of June to serve as the Secretary of Education. He was the chair of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing for 4 years. He served on the commission. A Yale Law School graduate, Alan was a United States Attorney from 1993 to 1998. So welcome all. Very nice to have you here. We now have a full board. Okay, Jack? Please.
Good. And then you get to give your 2-hour speech. Yeah, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your own name,
I, Yvonne Chan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Alan, congratulations. And congratulations. Take your seat again.
Thank you, Jack. And if our new board members would like to say a few words, introductory remarks?
Bring to this table or to the group that, a lot of hard-earned experiences I have had as a teacher, a school principal, and now learn to be a policy maker, and I really look forward to work with everyone and to hear from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I, too, am honored and delighted to be here. We are at a very critical juncture in public education in California. A very good time and a very challenging time full of opportunities. I think we've seen significant growth in public education, particularly in the primary grades, and we know the work that remains before us in terms of improving student achievement and improving the quality of instruction that every California school child deserves. To participate at the school, the state Board of Education level is a great honor, and I look forward to learning from my colleagues and listening to the education world as we try to find common ground in preserving the greatest institution in American public life.
Thank you. Ken?
Thank you. This is a great opportunity for me after 25 years as a school superintendent, and after 35 years in public education, to be sitting at this side of the table is very unusual for me. It'll be a great learning experience for me as well. All of my professional life, I've worked hard with the issues that we now call reform in hopes of making sure that every child succeeds through the public schools, and I will point myself in that direction and continue in that direction. I'm grateful to the governor and staff who have supported me, and to the governor for recommending me and appointing me here, and I will do my best to make sure that every child in the state benefits from the decisions that come from this table. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right, now moving along to board business, we have, do I have a motion for approval of minutes from the March and April 2005 meetings?
I'll move.
Julie, second by Ricky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right, now on to announcements. Today is the California Day of the Teacher, and I know in this body there are teachers here, and probably out in the audience there are teachers as well. So in California Day of the Teacher, I'm speaking on behalf of the State Board of Education. I'd like to thank all of the teachers, both in this room and throughout the state, for the hard work that you do to benefit California students. I'd just like to bring two examples of that. Ruth Bloom and I took a site visit to a Los Angeles Unified School, City Terrace Elementary, and it was a very good site visit. This is in East Los Angeles, high poverty, great growth at this school, and it was a real privilege to be there with Principal Ortiz and his staff showing us around and showing us the great work that they had done. So I applaud their efforts at City Terrace. Another item I'd like to bring up, it came to my attention in an editorial in the San Francisco Chronicle, and First Lady Laura Bush visited the Chipman Middle School in Alameda, and she was there to highlight the great growth that had been made at that school. And I think both of these schools bring up the collaboration that the state has with schools and school districts and teachers in terms of the tools that the state has provided with which these districts and schools can succeed. So it was noted in this editorial in the San Francisco Chronicle that the teachers and administrators using state-adopted intervention materials accelerated student learning. And I just want to quote from this editorial. The model is based on enabling students reading below grade level to make 2 years progress in 1 year's time by teaching an extended intervention class on comprehension, writing, spelling, and decoding. And I quote from Principal Lori McClatchin-Fry, who said, "But not only have we implemented this program, we've restructured the entire school around it. We made it even more intensive." Principal McClatchin-Fry went on to say of the First Lady's trip to Chipman, "The value of this visit is that the people who work hard are being acknowledged." So on behalf, again, of the State Board of Education, I'd also like to acknowledge their hard work and their efforts. So I applaud both of those schools and all the teachers in the state, so thank you. Okay. Now, more announcements. We have more appreciation, I should say. Cindy Cunningham will be leaving us, unfortunately. I know you've worked so hard and so collaboratively with the State Board staff, and we'll be sorry to see you go. But you have an exciting year ahead of you at, see, they don't tell me the graduate school in New York, Syracuse, thank you. Yes, consequential. And so this will be your last board meeting, but we're sure you'll be back. Jack will have you working hard again here at the state level. So again, congratulations. Okay, and I'd like, on a housekeeping note, board members, the following changes in the agenda. So we have one of the issues regarding item 7, request for more flexibility in the use of carryover funds. That will be postponed until Thursday morning, either 1st or 2nd. We're not sure at this point in time. And so that will come later. The rest of item 7 will still be heard today. Waiver item W9 for the San Juan Unified School District was withdrawn by the district. Item 44, the plans for the elimination of Concept 6 calendar has been postponed until July.
Which one is that? I'm sorry.
Item 44. So that has been postponed until July. And then as noticed in the agenda, the charter school items will be heard on both Wednesday afternoon and Thursday. The assessment items will be heard on Thursday morning. They're usually heard today, but we had to flip some things around. Okay, so, and board members, make sure you have all the copies of all materials. There were some duplication problems, and so you might be missing some pages in your board packet. Copies are available at the back of the room, and Deborah can help us with anything that you're missing. Public speakers limited to 2 minutes, and please, both staff and public speakers, identify yourself at the beginning of the public comment or when you're giving a presentation. And board members, the microphones are still not working. When you think they're off, they're still on. So they're just malfunctioning and have been for some time.
And today, when you think they're on, they're off. I think that's what somebody said.
Okay. Okay. Okay, and Kathy Barquette, please.
I want the board members to note that there is some construction going on in this little hallway here, and there may be a ladder there. So if you need to use the facilities, please go out the front and around. There's a wiring problem that they're fixing. And if they become noisy, they've promised they'll postpone their work. So if they become disruptive, we'll let them know. But otherwise, go around. Thanks.
Now on to the superintendent's report. Jack?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too want to extend my welcome to the new board members. Certainly looking forward to working with you, and welcome to both Yvonne and Ken, and a longtime friend and supporter sitting over here. Haven't run around Washington, D.C. together in about a week or two with Alan. And any help that we can provide you with, all you have to do is ask. So it's been good collaboration. I think the chair has already used that term once or twice, and I certainly want to reinforce that. So welcome anything we can do to help. And today, my report is to just remind you and let you know, and I think it's good to make the site visits that some have made. We're in the midst of our state standardized testing for our students. This is one of the windows for us for the CSTs and also for the high school exit exam. And we've done as much as I think we could possibly do to help provide the necessary information and material for our local school districts. There's been some intensive training and intensive preparing for the testing materials and for the proctors and folks on site. Also, this is a window for the high school exit exam, which has been in the news recently. And I wanted to reference a public poll and also a couple of private polls that I've seen on the issue recently, measuring public attitude on the concept of the high school exit exam. You're probably familiar with the public poll that came out, I believe it was last week, with Peter Hart and David Winston, well-respected pollsters, that sampled over 1,000 adults nationally, and they oversampled parents and teachers and site administrators, and also the states where the high school exit exam is about to take effect, such as California, New Jersey, and Ohio. And overall, the polling showed, and this is consistent with a couple of private polls that I've seen in the last month or so, very strong support for the concept of high school exit exam, both in California and in the nation. In fact, all demographic groups supported the concept of high school exit, as well as all those on the political spectrum as well. In California, 79% of the citizens that were polled favored the concept of high school exit exam as a condition of receipt for a diploma. 79% of the Democrats, 89% of the Republicans, 79% of the minorities in California favored high school exit, that being comprised of African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, and Asian Americans as well. And then California also was strongly in favor. In fact, it was 2-to-1, 58%, 29%, that all students should be held to the same high standard of academics regarding any disabilities that they may have, any disadvantages that they might have as well. And so that, again, I think is another indicator of strong support for standards for all of our students. I think the results are particularly timely and of interest, given a couple of bills that have been introduced in the legislature regarding the high school exit exam, and some comments that were even made yesterday in a budget subcommittee where we were well represented by Deb Sigmund. I wanted to thank Deb for going and talking about the standards and the effects that the high school exit exam has had positively, and also Andrea Ball, who represented us at the budget subcommittee hearing. I just wanted to briefly take this opportunity to also state my strong support for continuing the high standards that this board has taken over the last several years, our accountability system to not waver from strong accountability. And we're continuing to hear a growing chorus from some of our friends across the street and others in some school districts to lower standards and be less accountable in terms of trying to postpone high school exit exam. You're probably also aware, kind of transitioning, of the legislative analyst report that was released on Monday I'm pleased that he focused on high school, something that I've tried to make a big issue here the last couple of years, as you know, and I'm pleased that all of the attention that high school reform has been receiving from President Bush, the National Governors Association, conferences on state legislature, making that an issue as well. And the reality is we're continuing to see today too many students not being adequately prepared for college, for their careers, and to become effective citizens in our participatory democracy. Many of the recommendations in the analyst report I agree with and have been talking about for the last 18 months, and we talked about them in our high school summit that many of you helped with and participated with when we had 4,000 people across the street a couple of months ago. But one that I want to take issue with and strongly disagree with is the analyst's suggestion that we lower our standards of proficiency. Although it's somewhat counterintuitive, when you do that, I believe you're actually making it more difficult for people to prepare for the more challenging college opportunities, more challenging careers in the workplace. I don't believe that lowering the standards nor delaying the high school exit exam is going to help our students prepare for the more complex, challenging, demanding jobs that we're trying to prepare our students for. As I continue to travel up and down the state extensively, saying that we must do a better job at preparing our students for the workplace and for college, a recommendation like that, and even the bills that have been introduced to postpone high school exit, I believe, hurt us in our efforts. We do need to have more rigor, more challenging curriculum, more relevance, more connectedness for the students to their careers, to their colleges. We need to expose our students to more real-world options and opportunities, and must remember that we're not just competing with other states now. It's a global economy, and we're seeing emerging third-world countries who are now doing much more competition with us. We know how to improve public education, and there's some people on this the dais who have been in the forefront in various ways in terms of focus on school reform and new delivery systems with charter schools, and understand the importance of smaller learning communities and class size, and the important role that we should have with counselors. It's wrong that we have the worst ratio of students to counselors in the country. And we need to do a better job making sure we have textbooks and computers for all of our students. We know how to improve public education. So I just want to take this opportunity to, again, express my appreciation to this board for maintaining the high standards, maintaining our accountability system. When you step back, we really have done a lot with the standards that the department and the board over the years before I got here adopted, our accountability system, which is working, and now the fact that we have our assessment instruments, which are in place this week, and our instruction materials now aligned to those standards. I just really wanted to commend the board for your effort. We had an opportunity with No Child Left Behind to water down our standards. We rejected that. It was the right thing to do. Again, want to commend the board for that. And then lastly, I was in Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago. In fact, with Alan, it was a big teacher recognition dinner for teachers across the country. It was a great event. It was also an opportunity for me to express my appreciation to some of the federal officials at the Department of Education in D.C. for a little more flexibility as it relates to accountability and the disabled community. I express my appreciation for their looking at a growth model instead of the status arbitrary bar on NCLB, and express my appreciation to the Assistant Deputy to continue to move in that direction. And also I had a chance to meet with some of the ETS executives in D.C. so that we could talk about the current testing system that we have in place today and make sure that all the resources can be earned and delivered. So thank you for the opportunity to bring you up to date on some of my activities.
Thank you, Jack, and I appreciate those comments on the high school exit exam. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on now to item.
One quick
Yes.
thing. Just in the spirit of this excellent standards, accountability, and acknowledgments, our colleague Jonathan had something worth acknowledging, and that was last month. For years, Jonathan has been running the accelerated school, and the young people have been working out of temporary trailers and modules, and they worked for years with both public and private money to create a new facility, and they had that fabulous reopening of that grand opening of that new facility. It's achieving most excellent results with the young people. It's a fabulous collaboration with the teachers, the parents, the community, and the young people, and I just wanted to acknowledge Jonathan for that great accomplishment.
Well done, Jonathan. It is a beautiful facility. It's beautiful. All right, now we are on to item 1. State Board projects and priorities. And do we have any board member liaison reports? Ruth?
Well, I have actually 2 or 3, but I think I'm going to leave the
CTC?
CTC report because I understand that our new liaison will be here, Kathy Banker.
Right.
And I think I will let her talk about what is going on there, although I did attend a very difficult meeting several weeks ago at the CTC. However, I did attend a meeting of the California State Summer School for the Arts about a week ago, and they have just received a grant. The state has funded them almost to the level that they've had in the past, but they have received a grant from the Entertainment Industry Foundation, their special section on arts education, of $125,000 for their exemplary program, which will go towards really making a difference in their summer school program. At the same time, the Board of the MOCA education program also received a similar amount, which I'm proud of because I chair that committee at Museum of Contemporary Art. And I also had the opportunity to meet with Otis College, the Dean of Arts Education there, and at the same time, Jonathan, unfortunately, is the opening of your school, and I had made this commitment well before that. And they have developed a program that is in its infancy of training arts educators rather than just artists, designers, graphic people for the real world. So I was able to be of some help to them in terms of having them coordinate their program with Loyola or the Cal State University school system, because they're not getting all the things, obviously, that they need in the undergraduate program. They'll need to go, even though it's not called a 5th year, they're going to need an education year, and they will work out internships. So that ends my report, and I hopefully, when Kathy speaks, if she doesn't speak to the things that I'm concerned with at CTC, I'll just raise my hand again.
Okay, well, thank you for your hard work on the education and arts. That's excellent news. All right, I'd like to recognize that the chair of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing is here, Leslie Schwartz, and that Catherine Banker, one of its members, is here to give a liaison report. Catherine?
Thank you very much, President Green, I'm sorry, and members of the board and Executive Director Barquette, and congratulations to our new board members. And as we said, Leslie Schwartz, who is the new chair of the CTC, is in the audience, along with John Stoddard, who's our vice chair. And yeah, he's not here, actually,
Okay.
no. But he is the vice chair. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to address the board and give you some background on what the CTC has been doing lately. And thank you to Board Member Bloom, who has been attending as liaison for the board and has been fabulous in sharing her knowledge and wisdom to make sure that the cogs of the board and the CTC are moving in the same direction and don't clash. We have 8 new representatives and that were appointed by the governor. And I think I can speak for them when I say that we are pleased and thankful for the staff and for the executive director, Sam Swafford, who leads them in helping us become trained as new commissioners. Like the board, the learning curve is very sharp, and we're trying to catch on as fast as we can. And it is also paper intensive, just as the board is. The commission is excited about the opportunities in assisting the board in moving your educational policies forward and ensuring that classroom teachers have the knowledge and skills they need in order to be effective in the classroom. The CTC is charged with the accreditation of schools of education, new teacher education programs, credentialing, and the discipline of classroom teachers. And those 3 things keep all of us very, very busy. We have recently been reviewing, we obviously had to look at the budget, which is a very unpleasant piece, and it's unpleasant, I think, for everyone in California nowadays. We also have been looking at the new CLAD certification, the new the B-CLAD testing, and we have also recently passed the standards for It's not school to work now. What do we call it? We've changed the name. Thank you. Exactly. Yes, we keep changing the names. And that was, of course, with the caveat that it blends with what the board is doing. So I look forward to implementing that. The most exciting news, though, is that we've had a drop in emergency credentials. In the years 2003, 2004, the emergency credentials reached a 10-year low. And I was shocked by this, below the number issued in 1994 prior to class size reduction. So that's really very exciting. And that means that we have qualified teachers in the classroom. And that is wonderful for the students. And I think that NCLB, a decline in student population, district budget constraints, and expanded teacher preparation programs offered by universities and school districts are some of the influencing factors. And the alternative routes that are now being offered for teacher credentialing are fabulous, and those include the Institutes of Higher Ed internships, district direct internships, and individualized internships. And of course, all those internships meet the high standards. And I'd like to thank Board Member Burson for having participated in that as a CTC chair, because I know that he was influential in moving some of those new programs forward. We have many challenges ahead. We hope to meet them with knowledge and grace and a spirit of cooperation to not only meet the needs of teachers, students, and parents, but to exceed their expectations. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And of course, I'm sure Board Member Bloom has some comments that she'd like to make.
If I may,
Please.
I think I appreciate your explanation of what the CTC does and what its challenges are. And I think that it was a mixed blessing in getting the so many people off emergency credentials, because with so many people off, there were no fees coming in, which led to or leads to a budget constraint, I think, at CTC. But there are very, very what's the word I want? The staff is very dedicated to doing their job, and it's unfortunate that there is such a fluctuation in terms of their budget from year to year. And that is one of the issues that I think CTC has to deal with, is that they have a job to do and that they have the funds in which to do it. Thank you, Catherine.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. All right. Some more recognition is in order for our student board member who will be attending Princeton University in the fall. Well done, Ricky. But the good news doesn't stop there, because he is now the recipient of a Bucks Scholarship, I understand. So he'll be leaving us a little early today to go and have a meeting about that scholarship. So again, congratulations are in order. And Ricky, would you like to tell us briefly about your plans?
Thank you, President Green, for your leadership. I want to echo some of those sentiments from Superintendent O'Connell. You've been a great leader for us in the standards-based movement. I think Jonathan and I, we have come up with a saying that learning is very synergistic, and that's exactly how serving on the state board is. You have to elevate your service to really match up to those with your peers. And I've got some amazing colleagues up here, and that's basically a reason for our participation, is to benefit the educational experience of 6 million students. So I'm honored to have this experience, and looking forward to Princeton to further that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Princeton's lucky to have you. All right, now, do we have any public speakers, and there are no more board liaison reports, I take it. Public speakers on item 1? Okay. Someone coming forward to speak? Okay, this is for item 1, so none for item 1. All right. Very well then. Glee?
Okay, is it on? Yeah, all right. I just wanted to make a suggestion, and I know some of you, Ruth has heard me whine about the blues, the last minute memoranda. I just want to propose something. They're getting, I think, out of hand. I can't read on the fly. I don't know about you guys, but it's really difficult enough to master this material without getting, 2 inches of new material at the beginning of the meeting. And it's my understanding that a lot of this was done when the board went from meeting every month to meeting every other month, that this was to curtail the problem, and it probably was worse before. But I'd really like to, when we do the annual sort of review of how we do business, and I think it's usually November, to seriously take a look at whether we meet once a month or once every other month. My fellow board members may be totally uninterested, but I would really like to look at it. And I guess what I'd sort of like to look at is if maybe the state board staff could to do some kind of a tracking on the blues, like how many blues are we getting for how many items? It just seems like it's an incredible number. And even if we can categorize them, I mean, the blues that come when we've had a regulatory hearing the day before are perfectly understandable. I mean, that makes sense. Or when it's just a listing of supplemental providers and we've got 83 of them on the regular item and we want to add 2 or 3 more, that's fine. But when there's substantive new things, it's really difficult to do that on the fly. And I'm actually lucky enough, or unlucky enough, in some of these cases, I've been involved as a liaison with some of these items, so I understand why they're delayed and why they're complicated. But I can't even imagine what that's like for some of you who haven't been involved in the discussion to try and pick up on these things. So I'd really like to take a serious look at this and consider the possibility, if we really can't get a handle on it, to go back to meeting every month, and just not having blues other than the very technical ones, because it's just too difficult to operate. Anyway.
Okay, that's a conversation we'll have to have, I think at another time. But I think that's a good suggestion about the tracking the blues, because my sense is that there were many blues with once a month as there are with every other month. So, but that being said, let's track it, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Glee.
Well, my suggestion would be that we don't accept them if we meet every month.
Let's continue this conversation. All right. Now, we are excuse me? Deborah, did you have anything to say? Okay. We are on to item 2, and that is public comment. And I just want to remind the audience members that this is an opportunity for you to comment on anything that is not on the agenda. So if that is the case, if you can please come to the dais one at a time, and we'll take you for public comment.
If you've signed up, go ahead and just come down, and if you didn't sign up, come on down, and we don't care what order you do it, just so you introduce yourselves clearly.
And let me remind you that it's 2 minutes per speaker, please.
President Ruth Green. Hi, Rosalind Turnbull, California State PTA. And it's been my pleasure serving as the liaison for at least 4 years, and truly appreciate being here. But I'd like to introduce you to Ann Desmond, the incoming for July, the incoming liaison from the California State PTA. Ann Desmond has been an education advocate for many years and the director of legislation, and I think most of you pretty much know her, so we want to welcome her. Thank you.
Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, and I just want to say that I'm very much looking forward to the challenge of representing the California State PTA and the parent voice before this state board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, President Green. Excuse me. My name is Lou Calabro, and I'm president and spokesperson for the European American Issues Forum. It's a civil rights group for European Americans. We've been in the state in existence for about 8 years now. Mostly we work locally in San Mateo County. Excuse me. I basically have come here before you today just to call to your attention that in my work I'm finding that in the school system there is some discrimination against European Americans. And I have a report for you, and one in particular is at Skyline Community College, where the student funds that are being collected from all students are not being distributed equally on a basis of race and religion. All groups are being allocated funds from that program, and probably going on in all colleges, all community colleges, except European Americans. There's no programs for European Americans. So I'm just coming here to call that to your attention. I hope I can enter into some conversation with the superintendent or his assistant or somebody who he would like to talk to me about that. I'll leave you with this report I have. It's not an extensive report. It's just some work that I've been doing through the years that involves schools and discrimination against us. As you all may know, I'll shut this off right away. In 1998, the State Assembly and Senate did pass a European American Heritage Month. And we were hopeful that it would be celebrated in the schools, and I've been making an effort to do that. But in fact, only one school, and I had nothing to do with it, a school in Stockton was the only school that would adopt a European American Heritage Month. But 7 cities in San Mateo County have done that for me. I have gone forward. And so I'm just bringing this to your attention. I'll leave the report with your staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and leave the report. Thank you.
Good morning, board members and President Green. My name is Philip Melnick. I'm working with Glenn Browder's project, Future American Democracy, now focusing on the school systems. California Education Code clearly prohibits discrimination against any ethnic group, yet many Bay Area schools, this code is not being enforced. Far from teaching tolerance and inclusion, some schools are placing emphasis on promoting race, gender politics, building separate ethnic-based coalitions of Black, Latino, and Muslim American clubs, creating an us versus them environment which often leads to biased, antagonistic attitudes and discrimination against whites. Students trying to form similar clubs for Caucasians have been harassed and intimidated. One student from Oakley, California was forced to leave her school. I don't want to read all the issues I'm talking about, but we believe only by promoting debate through the free exchange of ideas between students of all races can we prepare students for their role as active, informed citizens. We will petition the members of this California State Board of Education, establish policy for school diversity curriculum and programming to be all-inclusive. No ethnicity-based clubs, associations, unions, or student groups should be allowed to exist unless members of all ethnicities are free and welcome to form similar ethnicity-based organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Jo Beam. I'm the past state president of the Learning Disability Association of California and a current public policy consultant in education and health. I didn't see the high school exit exam on the agenda, so I'm speaking to that. And I just wanted to alert the board that I hope you will do a diligence on AB 1531 and SB 517 that are slated to possibly protect students in the class of 206 and beyond from the unprecedented fallout as a result of the California high school exit exam. Just quickly, I want to go over some numbers. Later on, I will be able to provide a full report to the board where I've very carefully analyzed and had mathematicians involved in analyzing the California Department of Ed website data on pass rates in comparison to the Humro report. But just for starters, we know that 415,194 seniors are expected to be in the class of 2006. Normally, we are losing 11.5% of those students who start their senior year and do not finish. This is without the high school exit exam impacting. That would take out 47,747 students without the exit exam, leaving 367,447 students at the end of the senior year. Now, if you use the Humro data and the pass rates for subgroups and the group as a whole, where 10% more students will pass in subsequent years, now we have the 20304 results, so there are 2 more possible years to pass. That would take out another 131,130 students who will not pass based on Humro's exit exam, their report, which says about 10% more pass per year. So out of a class that should be 415,194, that figure was arrived at the past 5-year trajectory of increased enrollment per senior year.
That's 2 minutes.
Okay, what I'll just wrap up by saying then that we will only be graduating 284,064 students out of that class, which would really be quite an insult to our senior class and our students that have been learning for the past 13 years. 12,000 hours and 2,000 days sitting in K-12 classrooms. So please take the new bills into consideration. Thank you very much.
Glenn?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Glenn Thomas. I'm Executive Director of the County Superintendents Association. I rarely hear talking about the counties. I view myself as an advocate for public education. I want to welcome Ms. Chan, Mr. Burson, Dr. Noonan. The importance of being on the State Board of Education, from my perspective, is to have a coherent policy around standards, assessment, and accountability. And you're the body that ensures that coherence. I appreciated Mr. O'Connell's comments this morning on the high school exit exam, parts of the accountability system that you'll review here. You have a lot on your agenda repeatedly. They can either break apart that coherence or reinforce the path that we're on. And then I hope at some point we do get to talk about the biggest area I think that we haven't fully addressed, and that is teacher support and teacher preparation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Martha Wallace, California Teachers Association. Happy Day of the Teacher. Today, teachers across California are gathering to celebrate. I teach 7th and 8th grade history in the Alum Rock District in San Jose. And today, every teacher in San Jose, Santa Clara County is wearing a t-shirt similar to mine to show that we are together and to recognize the educators across the state who dedicate their time, energy, and careers to give the children of California the best education. And I want to thank you for your recognition of this day. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Last but not least.
Good morning. Kim Ship, Oakland Unified School District. Today on this item, I'm representing myself on a personal issue. I just want to have it for the record, a possible litigation, and the reason why I am coming here is because we are in state takeover, so that makes us under the leadership of the state board. I'm not going to mention names because of the possible litigation, but I'm just going to read this letter, which is addressed to Jack O'Connell. Dear sir, attaches documentation to inform you of your appointee, State Administrator, Oakland Unified School District, unwillingness to release payment due to BK Ship and Associates for services rendered to Cleveland Elementary School on March 23, 2005. The nature of the services rendered was a parent workshop. I have tried to resolve this issue to no avail. I was left with no choice but to contact my attorney. Enclosed is a copy of the letter sent by my attorney to your appointee, State Administrator, asking him to remit payment within 5 days. There has been no response from your appointee or any of his staff members. However, one staff member has informed me that they are in receipt of the letter from my attorney. In the attempt to avoid protracted litigation against your appointee State Administrator, Oakland Unified School District, and the California Department of Education, I am making one last attempt to get this issue resolved. I have been providing contracted and non-contracted services as an independent contractor in various departments to Oakland Unified School District for approximately 8 years. These services over the years range from technology, special event, parent workshops, etc. As is always the case, department staffs or principals contact me to arrange for my services, at which time the services needed and the prices are negotiated. Once services are rendered, I submit an invoice for payment. This was the case for this workshop. I submitted the invoice to the principal, so on and so forth. I question the level of approval and wonder why the invoice went.
That's 2 minutes.
Okay, in closing. In addition to having been a consultant in the district for the past 8 years, I have also been a very active parent and is currently the district advisory chairperson. I trust that my level of involvement, which some may not favor, has not gotten into the way of sound professional judgment and the need for one to follow the law. So I would just like to enter that into the record, a copy with all the documentation to Jack O'Connell and the board president.
So noted. Thank you very
Thank
much. And I see more speakers. Okay, please.
Good morning, Chairman Green, State Board members, Superintendent O'Connell, and Executive Director Catherine Burkett. I am Linda Olson. I am President of the Yosemite Union High School Board of Education, and I'm here today to let you know how important it is for the Yosemite Union High School District and the Coors Gold Elementary School District unification petition to be heard at the July State Board of Education meeting. It's very, very important because if we are going to, if we are not on your July agenda, our unification process will be delayed by at least another year, not allowing the possibility of unification until July 2007. If we make the July agenda, and all the gods and powers that be agree. And I must say that we've had enormous cooperation so far with the County Office of Education and the County Board of Supervisors and the State Board of Equalization and the County Elections Clerk. If all of those things come together, we will make it, if you allow us, on the July agenda. So I would just like to again say please and thank you. Thank you to Superintendent O'Connell, and thank you especially to Terry Chin and Larry Sherry, who have been very, very helpful in putting together the timeline and working with us to get this whole thing done. So we look forward to your continued support and really hope to see you in July.
Thank you. Well, I think the gods have spoken. I'm hearing something that you will be here in July. So, okay. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sue O'Connor, and I am the president of the Coarsegold Union School District Board, and I echo Linda's statements regarding the importance of being on the July agenda, but I want to speak more specifically about our petition. We have submitted a petition that asks for a 7-member board, and the county has submitted their recommendation for a 5-member board. So I'm here to advocate for the 7-member board, and I want to give you a little bit of history on that. Both boards that are participating in the Thompson-style unification agreed that the 7-member board would reflect the community's desires. In fact, when we went to the county board, they also agreed to a 7-member board. However, because it's a Thompson-style unification, there are some difficulties, and it's not specifically addressed in Ed Code as to how those trustee areas would come out. And there was one of the board members from one of the school districts that's not going to be joining the Thompson-style unification, but is a feeder district to the high school, was concerned about the way the trustee areas were set up, and so he advocated against the trustee areas. And when that went back to the county board, what they did in reaction to that was they then forwarded what they thought would be a simpler, something that would be less easily disputed, which would be a 5-member board. Our communities, both Yosemite High School District community and Coarsegold Union School District community, do prefer a 7-member board. So for this petition to go forward, we believe to have an opportunity to pass with voter approval, they're going to want to have a level of representation that meets their comfort level. We all understand what it takes to make public education better, and one of those is parental involvement and community participation. And we believe a 7-member board will increase opportunities for people to interact with with this new district, and would also increase collaboration efforts with the community.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Bill McCabe. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. I'm not going to speak on unification today, which will be refreshing since I've addressed it several times with you. But I would like to talk about the superintendent's call for maintaining standards and the high school X exam. I think it's what we need to do in education. And we need to be passionate about it, and we need to insist upon it and make sure every child has that opportunity. I want to profile for you a high school district that has 1,200 students in a comprehensive high school. 2005 California Distinguished School, 2005 Exemplary Career Technical Program, one of 12 in the state of California. API is in the high 700s. California High School exam pass rate, first attempt, over 89%. And so I think the call to standards, if you lower the standards on that test, you might as well not administer it in my school district. All individual school districts, if you look on the state website, have met participation results. And then to my surprise, we were a PI's district. Now I called the state, and I don't want to poke fun at them, but I'm going to have a little fun with you. And I talked to a state person, and I really loved their statement. They said, well, I'm 50% sure that this is the reason, and I'm correct in what I'm telling you. And that was reassuring for me, but I'm a little more passionate than that. And in the final analysis, what happened is one child did not test, and it put us in PI status. Yosemite High School is not a school district you want to fix. You're going to give us a lot of money to fix a one-child testing situation, which seems somewhat ironic. But I think our policies on No Child Left Behind, we really need to insist that they match the quality of our educational program, not minimalist standards that are established by the people in Washington who have no idea what are happening in our schools in California. And I may sound a little passionate about it because we are. We take our business very seriously. We want to have the best quality schools in California, and I think we have exemplary schools, and that's due to the leadership of people like yourself, our superintendent, and others who take a lot of advantage in that. But please, help us in these endeavors. We won't be in PI status next year, but I don't think schools that are highly functional, highly successful, should be even put in this situation.
Thank you very much for your comments. I would urge you to stick around for following items, which we'll be discussing in regards to your comments. Thank you. All right. Well, we are now moving on to item 3, Wendy Harris. All right, Wendy, there we are.
As Madam President, if I may, as Ms. Harris comes forward, and she was in Washington, D.C. till last night, so I'm glad she got back safely and everything in one piece. But the purpose of this presentation, as they're preparing their presentation, is to give background information on both the state and federal accountability requirements and support systems, some of which we just heard about from the outstanding school district up in the mountains. This is information and background that we have talked about at previous board hearings, and we hope that you'll realize from the numbers of schools that have exited both IIUSP, exited the IIUSP system, that we may have, that we really do have many successes to celebrate. And then during the second part of this presentation, we want to propose a strategy to try to better align current state and federal accountability systems. It really is very difficult when you're a district that's recognized on the one hand with distinguished schools and great test scores, and then be labeled a PI school district. Newspaper magazine was a Time that just came out and listed some of the outstanding schools in the state, and there's some on there that are on the IIUSP and PI as well. So we look forward to, and this was a suggestion of the board, and I think a very good suggestion for this presentation.
And thank you in advance, Wendy, for your presentation, and I think this is apropos, given that we have 3 new board members here, and this is a question we've been asking, as Jack said, for some time, and as we grapple with this issue again and again, so thank you.
We need a minute or two to get set up. When I think people come up, they put their items on the PowerPoint we have set up.
You know what, then with that being said, you want to take a quick break, 5 minutes? Does anybody, because this will be a long presentation. While you get set up, you need a couple of minutes anyway?
2 minutes is fine.
Okay, so let's take a 3-minute break. So run. Okay, Wendy, please begin. I think we have everybody. We have a quorum. Jack's in the room. We're all set.
Good morning, everybody. President Green, members of the board. Special welcome to new members, Superintendent O'Connell. I am very glad to be here after wending my way across the country last night. I guess I was pretty desperate. If I had tapped on the door of the cabin and asked the pilot to step on the gas, I would have broken every rule in the book, and I probably would have been in jail this morning. So anyway, but it is good to be here. And it was just about a year ago that we did provide a similar seminar. The numbers have changed, but the issues and challenges and opportunities we face in this world of high priority schools and districts have remained much the same. The purpose of our seminar today really is twofold. We want to first provide you with some background information on the various requirements and support systems in our state and our federal accountability system. And then secondly, we want to discuss a strategy for better aligning these two systems as they affect schools. What I'm going to do to begin is going over some basic information about our various accountability support programs for schools. I want to talk a little bit about what districts have to do, program improvement districts under the federal system. And then Laura Wagner, who's the manager of our Intervention Assistance Office, will talk for a little while about the SATE process, our school intervention process, and how we're going to be helping both schools and districts with their work. And then finally, I'll wrap it up by suggesting some changes that would allow us to, we hope, better align our two systems. I want to just suggest before we begin that I think you'll see from the data that we show you that many schools are improving and really progressing fairly well through our system. And the reason that our accountability system with regard to schools is not working is due more, we feel, to the multiple conflicting requirements that are imposed upon schools who participate, as you'll see, in more than one program. More with regard to these multiple and conflicting requirements than to the fact that schools are doing particularly poorly. Because I think we have some data that shows that schools are doing really rather well as a result of participating in these two systems. As you know, our state API, which is based on a growth model, is really quite different from the federal AYP criteria, which are based upon a benchmark or a status model. And under AYP, each school has the same target in any given year, and it must meet its annual measurable objectives. But under API, which is our growth system, each school has its own target, and schools are assessed on whether they make their targets or not. I'm not going to really go into this. Bill Padilla is going to be talking about this in a later item, so I'm going to let him articulate better some of these differences. In California, we have 4 main accountability support programs. And I'm only going to say this once in its full name: the Immediate Intervention Underperforming Schools Program, or IIUSP, the High Priority Schools Grant Program, we call it HP, and then under the federal system, Comprehensive School Reform, CSR, and of course the program improvement, which is a result of the accountability requirements within the Title I law. And as I said, these 4 programs have somewhat conflicting requirements. Let's start with the IIUSP program. And under IIUSP, 430 schools were selected in each of 3 cohorts. And these were all volunteers. In fact, the very first year that IIUSP started, 1,400 schools volunteered. And then they were selected randomly, but equally from the 5 deciles that those schools represented. A school under IIUSP must meet its growth targets the first 2 years to exit. And then if it doesn't, but it still grows and makes what we call significant growth, it receives a 3rd year of funding. It receives $200 a student for either those 2 or 3 years. And just as a reminder to especially the new board members, the state board has defined significant growth, or the progress bar, for IIUSP as some positive growth. If a school doesn't exit accountability requirements under IIUSP, or it doesn't become state monitored, as we'll talk about in a few minutes what that means, it becomes what we call on watch. And once a school is on watch, and you'll see some data about how many schools we have in that status, a school has to only meet its growth targets, both school-wide and for the subgroups, for a single year to exit that program requirement, or the accountability requirements. This next slide, and hopefully you also have this on your blue last-minute memorandum. Okay. The numbers are a little bit hard to see. I apologize, but we felt it important to get these data, in some cases, all on one slide. But this next slide shows that the data around the 3 cohorts of IIUSP schools. And this is an aggregate, then, across all 1,290 schools. Clearly, if you look at our investment, under total implementation funds, the highest amount of investment has been in our lowest decile schools. And that's good news. Another thing just to note about this chart is in terms of the total implementation funding, this represents total funding for these schools, not total funding within, let's say, the IIUSP line budget. And the reason is, as you'll see, some of these schools receive some funding from another source.
Wendy, one quick question for you. Was this a school-based decision to enroll in IIUSP, or did the district make a decision for the school to enroll in IIUSP?
Well, technically, the district volunteers the school, and in some cases, it was the school pushing very much for itself to be part of this program. But in a lot of cases, the district just decided, and we did hear stories, and this goes back now a few years, that the school was quite surprised to find out that they were somehow in this accountability support program. So really what we saw was the whole range of who was volunteering the school and under what circumstances.
And did that pose a problem as far as their achievement, their reluctance to join IIUSP?
I don't think so, but it posed some problems at the beginning when some of these schools suddenly found themselves working with, at that time, we call them external evaluators, and sometimes these individuals were imposed upon the school by the district. But other times, the model worked where the school had a very strong voice in not only its participation, but in selecting who they were working with. So we saw the whole range.
Wendy, could you speak to the timeline of IIUSP in terms of how long this particular program will be going forward?
The first cohort started in 9900. There have been no new cohorts started since 2001, 2002. And actually, if you look on this chart, you can see really in terms of how, as a result of the sequence of cohorts these schools have done. So here's some good news. 696, where my cursor is, schools have exited the program. They've met the various accountability requirements. We have 417 schools that are on watch, that status. And we have, actually the number is 144 state-monitored schools. The extra ones are included here because they've since closed, but they had received funding in the beginning. So to represent the funding awarded to these schools, we just included those schools there. Does that answer your question? We really expect that most of the schools, the 417 schools that are on watch, given that they have to meet their growth targets for a single year and have to make positive progress each year, will indeed exit. So just some more good news. And we'll talk about state monitoring and the state process in just a few minutes. One other success story I wanted to mention in terms of IIUSP. Each year for the past 3 years, we've co-sponsored with WestEd a conference in the spring called On the Right Track. And at that conference, we profile 12 schools that have done very, very well, exited IIUSP and done very well. And the purpose of the seminar is to, or symposium, is to allow in a seminar format those schools to give presentations to other schools at the earlier stages of the reform. We also post profiles of those schools on the website in an attempt to try to share good practices of these successful schools. This next slide starts to show some of the participation of schools across the two systems. And we haven't talked about the details of PI, but this really looks at these remaining on-watch IIUSP schools, the 417, in terms of their status in the federal system. And just as a sort of advanced organizer, a school is in program improvement or PI when it fails to meet AYP for 2 consecutive years. And then it progresses through the federal accountability requirements, PI year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if it fails AYP each subsequent year. So you can just see that, as I said, we believe that most, if hopefully not all, of these 417 schools will exit state accountability, but continue to progress along the PI year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sequence in terms of federal accountability because of the AYP measure. So moving on to the second program, the high priority program. This was authorized in 2001, and it had as its focus the decile 1 schools at that time. And this program attempts to focus not only on our most needy schools, but provide them a higher level of funding for a slightly longer period of time. And the law, in this case, directs us to fund from the bottom up. So we have, by now, funded in the first cohort of those HP schools pretty much almost all of the original decile 1 schools that were identified in the base 2001 API. And then some positive news, the governor's budget does include item of $45 million for a new cohort of these HP schools that if it goes through the budget process, we would start those schools next in the budget year in July. Some of the features, just a couple features of this program. While the schools still volunteer, there's a kind of a sunshine requirement so that if they decide not to participate, there are certain local hearings that have to happen to make sure the community understands the needs within the school and the reasons why